Trace on, down the line, back of the spine, and this is one I take a lot. I take a lot of people. I actually, if it's a really good talk prayer, I will then just hit the ball over the camera. However, most people are encouraged to hit it into the net. It's much safer. But if you get the camera in the right position, I'm going to talk about that. You get the camera in the right position, you can see some very interesting stuff about what's happening, from just before to just after impact here. So, my goal whenever I do something like this is to give you a few pieces of information that maybe you knew when you'd stopped using, or maybe you didn't know so much. 4 views. How many of you shoot video with 4 views? You're good. Do you have them hit the ball over the camera, or do you have them hit it into the net?
I use a GoPro, and I trust them.
Okay. Brave. Okay. But it's good to have those 4 views. Do you think you see something with that from the target back to the player view that you wouldn't ordinarily see?
Every time.
Yeah, every time. You see stuff you don't expect. And look, the traditional way to do video, well actually the traditional way to do video is this one and this one, with a slight exception. The other thing that people do on video is they do this. So look, video is part of technology. We should all be using video. This day and age, I haven't got a phone, but just pretend this was my phone. Pretend this is my phone. This day and age, so many people just pick up a phone, hold it here, try and hold it fairly still. It's in the wrong place, it's at the wrong height, and you can't keep it still anyway. So most of the information you get is not very good. When you're using video, you are not being the best golf professional you can be if it isn't on a tripod. Now I realize there's times where I've got a tripod with me and I'll try and sit on a stool and dig my hands into my knees and make sure the camera doesn't move. And I still can't hold it still. So I think having the camera on a tripod, in this room, who always uses a tripod? That's not very many. That's about 4. Now, I'm going to show you why I think that's really, really important. My ask of you is, from my efforts this week, if you did nothing else because of Martin Hall, put your camera, your phone, your iPad on a bloody tripod and give your students the best you can give them. Because let me show you, this is Colin Montgomery, and this is an absolutely worthless piece of video. Worthless. Why is it worthless? Because the camera's moving! Now how do you know if the camera's moving? Every piece of video that I'm sent, I put it through this screen. I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to find something in the background. This is easy, there's a TV tower there. But you'll find something in the background. Anything. Find something that you can draw a line against. It's my first test for video. And I want to be able to, it's what I call scrub. If you take the cursor and you just scrub it along the bottom here, you shouldn't see any movement. How's that do it? To me, it is worthless, or almost worthless, to look at that video of Colin Montgomery and try and come up with a decent interpretation of what the ball is doing. Now, in contrast with that, this was some I took of Tiger at the Medalist on a tripod. Let's put it through a screen. Let's draw something on the alignment rod. Let's draw something on his golf bag. See if it looks like it moves. Question. Who does this? Show of hands, who does this right now? Yeah, 1. Teacher of the year. Well, that's just a coincidence. Of course he does. Of course he does. Now watch the golf bag and watch me scrub this. Does it look like the golf bag's moving right to the lines? Of course it doesn't. Now here's what I know with that. Here's what I know. Any lines I draw, I can trust them now. I couldn't trust any lines that I would draw around that Colin Montgomery video. And it is so easy. I'm not going to throw teachers under the bus, but there's one teacher whose player eventually came to me, very good player. And this teacher had been taking video of this player and telling them they were changing their spine angle. And he would draw a box around them and he would show them. Do you see how much you've moved your spine there? Like, no, you moved the camera! So you just can't trust it. If you're going to draw lines and you want to be precise, you have to use a tripod. Now, if you want a tripod for your phone, go to caddybuddy.com. They do it for iPads, they do it with the phones. The best one I've seen, caddybuddy.com. And just know, I mean, I'm here to hopefully somewhat entertain you, to inspire you, to inform you, and to challenge you. Just know that if you don't do that, you're not being the best golf professional you can be. You're not being fair to your students, and you're not being fair to yourself. Because if I did draw something around Colin Montgomery's head, you could make the case. Now, this was an extreme example I put in here because I wanted to show this. An extreme example. But you could very easily say, if you didn't do the sort of the filter first, like, oh, look at Monty lifting away from it there. You could. I hope you wouldn't. But he's not. So you have to run. Now, so taking video off TV. Do you like the shot tracer on TV? Love it. Don't trust it. Don't think the arc that it gives you is always what the ball did by any means, because I think it depends where they put this camera, if the camera's off to the left a bit. But to do the shot tracer, the camera has to be locked down. So anytime there's a shot tracer going on, although because it's broadcast you won't get much about the golf club, as you know, digital TV, as soon as it's gone by, drive Lisa back like, ooh, stop, rewind, camera. Because using shot tracer, you know, people say, where'd you get all your info? CBS, NBC. You can absolutely trust that. Isn't that amazing? Those mountains are staying still. Beautiful thing when mountains stay still, isn't it? So we know that this is Justin Thomas. And by the way, you know, obviously you have to have your left arm across your shoulder plane, don't you, obviously? Or maybe not. But the point there is, on TV with this down the line with the shot tracer that all the channels have now, that was amazing, even out of the Masters actually, which is astonishing. But you can have a really good look at what the body does. I wouldn't necessarily look at the club because the camera angle may not be right. I'm going to talk about that. The camera angle may not be right. But you can definitely look at what the body's doing. And people have variations with it. But if you want to get some nice video for your library, just steal it off TV and don't tell them I told you to. So look, I think scrubbing, very, very important for video. Because if you can scrub it, I like to scrub it back and forth, because I think when you're scrubbing and you go back and forth from the takeaway, things start to become apparent, especially as you're sort of starting the downswing. When there's no camera move, it's almost, I'd rather look at the golf swing like this than I would, if I'm looking for something positionally, I'd rather look at it that way than I would at just normal speed. I like to scrub it. So I've got 4 angles that I would scrub at. There isn't a time where I don't draw. If I'm doing video, I'm drawing lines, and I want to see how the body's working relative to those lines. There isn't a time I won't draw lines. I draw what I call the silhouette. I think it's really important that you draw the silhouette around the body. As for the plane, I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Just want to show you something here. Let me just show you something else I think you've got to be really careful of with this game. So I'm actually going to play I'm going to say something to you as a group here. This is a very nice man I teach. His name is Jeff McGeary, very avid golfer, loves his golf. So this was during a lesson, and he hit some shots, and when we started on the left, this was, you could say this was the first one we took. We started on the left, and I think you could see on the left, do Do you see how the club head is behind his hands there? And that would be the classic, you know, I'm coming too much from inside. And I could say I instilled a bit of wisdom in him, and, you know, 10 minutes later, I'd got him coming down here. And I think it looks better when he's coming down here. And you might want to know how I did that. How did I make that club come down on a much better plane? It's a camera angle. It's the same swing. That is the same swing. That is the same shot being hit. And one of them looks, if we look this way, one of them looks, so when people say the camera angle doesn't matter, or very much, I'd say, well, if you think the plane's important, it does. One of them, the club looks like it's coming way under the plane to way above the plane. Way under the plane to way above the plane. And one of them on the right, you would say, no, he's corrected, it is much better. It's the same swing. Now, you can always tell where the camera angle is. I took one with the iPad and one with the Casio. I think when the camera is in the right place, quick test, when the camera is in the right place and you're shooting where I think you should, through the handle of the club, through the hands, this is my down and dirty on it. You know the camera is pretty good. If you drew if the grip end is in the center of the club, in the center of the picture, if the ball looks about somewhere between 5 o'clock and 4 o'clock on a clock face, you can be pretty sure there, you can be pretty sure that the camera's in a fairly good position. If, however, you've got this look, and the ball isn't in the middle of the screen, and the ball's looking at about 6 o'clock, and the target line looks very, very straight, then I think what you're going to get is you're going to get a golf swing that looks more inside out than it really is. Now that's okay if you want to do it that way. Jim McLean, who I think a lot of indeed, Jim McLean likes to put the club on the target line. That's fine, as long as you know that it's going to make your golf swing look more inside out than it normally is. So if you ever want to make one of your students a bit happier, start on the shaft plane and move towards the target line, because they will look like they're coming more from the inside. So I would say where you put the camera, very important. Is the camera on a tripod? Very important.
So height of the camera too, right?
Yeah, I think height of the camera is important. I certainly think down the line height of the camera is very important. I think face on, I have different views on the height of the camera. But I mean, I like the camera. It's my preference. I mean, you know, heavily influenced by Cook, obviously. But my preference that the camera is about the height of the grip end of the swing. Because what I really want to look at with the shaft is from about hip height to somewhere just after the ball. So I like the camera, my camera is just below hip height, and I'm shooting through the top of the shaft.
So you're shooting between your feet and the ball?
Yeah.
Right through your hands?
Right through the hands. And you know, when I'm putting the camera there, depends who I'm working with, but I'll either, if I've got to go quick, I'll imagine I've got a laser pointer coming out of the top of the camera, and I just want to hit the back of the right hand with that laser pointer. That's what I'm trying to do with the camera line. And I think that's a big deal if you think the path is a big deal, which I do. So I think that really is important. So I think I think with the video, which is part technology, one, it has to be on a tripod, and two, it has to be in the right place, and thank you, Todd, three, it has to be at the right height. I also think as a piece of technology, I would encourage you to have something like this. Now that's a fairly fancy playing board. Pretty good one. I got our people at IBIS to make it. That's about probably 6 foot high, 7 foot, no, probably 8 foot high actually, because